Welcome to Why We're Fans. I'm Duran, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Gennaro.
In all of our episodes, we cover the past, present, and the future of all your favorite NFL football teams.
We love hearing your stories, talking the NFL draft, and reminiscing about the good old days.
If you like the same, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this episode. And leave a comment below if you want to answer any of our questions.
Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on our latest interviews. And like we always say, win or lose, we're all fans. Enjoy this episode.
And welcome back to another episode of Why We're Fans. It's Gennaro and Duran here, as always, here today with a pretty fun fan. I'm pretty excited about this one. This is actually our first Bengals fan. But before we get started, cheers to Duran. Cheers to you, John.
Cheers.
Yeah, man. So, like I said, we got a Bengals fan here earlier. We got a Bengals fan here today. Pretty excited about this one. Duran, how you feeling?
Good, man. Yeah, Bengals, another team that we haven't done yet. We just keep checking them off the list. I think we got 4 more to go.
Yeah, so let's bring our guest in today. We got John. John, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I like that intro. It's just some people have music, some people have these like long-winded. Yours is just the crack open of a beer. You know, it could not be more perfect.
That's what fans do, man. We drink beer, we talk football, we argue. But at the end of the day, we're just cheers and having a good time watching the sport that we love, watching the team that we love. So you are a Bengals fan. Before we talk about your fandom, let us know where we can find you, plug any work that you're working on at the moment. Have at it, man.
Right. So I help cover the Bengals on CincyJungle.com, which is the Bengals SB Nation affiliate. You can find my work there. You can find me on Twitter at John_Sheeran. And I also do the podcast for Cincy Jungle called the Orange and Black Insider. So if anyone out there, if your favorite team is going to play the Bengals in the upcoming season and you want Bengals content previewing the game, definitely check us out there.
Hell yeah, man. Sounds good. Duran, you drinking on anything in particular before we get started or what?
Oh, yeah. Of course, from Cooperage, Tremco, IPA.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm drinking on too. Shout out to Cooperage. John, drinking on anything?
I would, but I literally just got my second Pfizer, so I'm avoiding the alcohol just in case. I'm just gonna hydrate, but I'm drinking in spirit. I would definitely like to drink right now.
Smart, I'll tell you what, I got a second one on tap here for you. It's called Metal.
There we go.
Cooperage. But yeah, man, my recommendation. I got I'm vaccinated up. I got Moderna. Stay hydrated. Get on a cycle of ibuprofen. You'll be fine the next day. The next day, take ibuprofen. Hydrate a lot, like you're doing right there. You should be fine, man.
Hey,
Appreciate that.
Before we get started, John, how you feel about these new jerseys that are supposed to be coming out?
That's right. So we already know what the basic design is because, like all uniforms, they get leaked beforehand.
Okay.
And the Bengals,
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, so they got leaked on eBay like a month ago, and the Bengals obviously ignored it. Said, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." So they're keeping it under wraps. But yeah, we'll see on Monday. They look pretty clean. They look pretty simple. We haven't seen, I think, the white jerseys. We haven't seen the pants, but definitely overdue. They had their old ones since like 2004, and it was just a lot going on. I like the Cowboys and the 49ers because they're simple, they're clean. They what they are, and I think the Bengals are going to try to get back to that.
Oh, you don't got to kiss her ass, bro. It's okay, man.
Look,
I think the dopest ones are. I'm going to be biased, the '94 ones, and hopefully we're coming out with the red tops. But I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm not trying to kiss your ass. I've always been a fan of the stripes on the helmet. I've always liked that. And a lot of people are like, "Oh no, that's ugly as shit. It's boring." I was like, dude, that's actually pretty sick. I like it. And
I've never heard someone say it's boring. Like I know some people don't love them, but there's a reason why they didn't change it. Like they love them as much as Bengals fans do.
Exactly. And I like that you guys have the like you said, they leaked them out, and it looks like they're going with white bottom, so white on white.
Yeah,
that's gonna look sick. It's kind of whenever they did the color rush, like on Thursday nights, like you always had one team that was like an all white, which looked dope, and the other team was all one color. Except that one time, I think it was the Bills versus like the Seahawks. It was like neon green versus all red. Straight disgusting. And I'm not doing that because I hate the Seahawks, but it just, come on, that looked like shit.
Yeah, I just looked them up, the leaked ones, and I like them. They're cleaner.
Yeah,
They just seem
definitely cleaner.
more solid.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got a question for both you boys. How do you guys feel about the new draft hats? I kind of like them, me personally.
I like them. I like them because I'm so used to seeing every year how horrible they are. They usually go above and beyond, and now it seems like they're kind of basic in the way they're going. I'm not really a trucker hat guy, but I kind of like the cleaner look rather than all the colors and all the riffraff that's on there.
I've definitely seen worse. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I would go out there and get one myself, but like, I don't dislike it. You know what I mean? It's just okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, 2 years ago? They tried to do like the state like flag hats.
Right.
It looked like ugly as shit. I think Carolinas, they look like garbage, and I was a big fan of that draft class. And then everyone said that they liked the Niners one. I think I think mostly they just like Bosa, which is, obviously one of my favorite 49ers, but I hated that hat.
Why was he wearing the hat?
Yeah, it was a draft day hat.
Oh, he was wearing it. He put it on.
Yeah. So as soon as you come out with it, they hand you the brand new draft hats. They put it on, and like last year was a big metallic logo, looked like something you get at the gas station. It just wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't know. It wasn't my forte.
All right, let's dig in, G.
All right, John, you ready, man? We're not gonna grill you like I said before we started recording. We legitimately want to know, man. I don't know do you guys have a name for your like fans out there? I know we have the faithful, the Cowboys. I'm not too sure. I think it's just America's team. Do you guys have like a nickname for your fans or something?
That's a great question because I'm not sure I know the exact answer. I've heard Bengaldom. I've heard like just Who Dey Nation, which is just a very generic. I think the most accepted one is probably the Jungle. I guess if you're looking for like a group in terms of like what the crowd is, I guess. Yeah, I think the Jungle's probably the most accurate with that, but I don't think there is like, it's not like a Seahawks like 12s or whatever. There's nothing like coined or official with that. It's just, I think it's whatever you want to call it, maybe.
Sorry, Seahawks fans, if anybody's listening, that's Texas A&M's logo, right? Anyway, so how did you become part of the Jungle? How did you become part of Who Dey Nation? How did it all start?
I guess it started with my grandpa in 1968. The Bengals were founded in 1968 when they played at the University of Cincinnati Stadium, Nippert Stadium. He was the initial season ticket holder, and he had those season tickets up until, I believe, like 2011. He passed away in 2012, but essentially he had season tickets for a long time. He would go to games, and my dad would go to games with him and whatnot. So then when he got older, and I was like, I don't know, 7, 8 in like the early 2000s. I'm on the younger side, by the way. But when I started getting old to go to games, my dad would take me to go to the games because around that time I became a Bengals fan because my best friends were Bengals fans. Like my best friend's dad is probably the biggest Bengals fan that I knew growing up. And that's kind of how that started. Like, my friends were fans, and I liked the uniforms growing up, so it was just made sense. They were my hometown team. So I started going to games with my dad, and we went to games and my grandpa's season tickets for like 8 years. And then he unfortunately passed away back in like 2012. So me and my dad still went to some games after that before I went to college. And so, yeah, from like 2004 to 2000 and I don't know, like 14, I probably went to, if not every home game, like the vast majority of them. And that's kind of how that whole thing kind of started.
Do you remember your first game you went to? Like, who were they playing?
Ooh.
Yeah,
I think, wow, like it might have been 2004. I don't know if I remember my first actually. I guess the oldest game that I actually remember coming to my mind is unfortunately that playoff game when Carson Palmer got hurt in like the second snap and they lost to the Steelers when the Steelers went on to win the Super Bowl. I don't know if I remember being at a game before that, but I probably was because I think we did go to most of the 2005 games.
Yeah, so you had old Kitna back there, huh?
Yeah, that was. Ugh.
Yeah, I remember that. You guys were always like a team that got to the playoffs, never really got over the hump. And then that year, I remember being really excited because, you had Carson Palmer, having a career year, and then he just goes down right there. And I was like, damn, man, this is a shot in the gut. And I was always a big Marvin Lewis fan, and it was just kind of shitty to see.
Yeah, I mean, like that unfortunately happened again 10 years later. Like the Bengals had another team that was really good. Their quarterback gets hurt against the Steelers again. It wasn't in the playoffs that time, but then they played the Steelers in the playoffs again with the backup quarterback, and they damn near won. And I'm sure everybody remembers what happened back in 2016. But it's the Steelers, man. Like I feel like even when the Bengals are bad, most Bengals fans remain Bengals fans because they have this pure hatred of the Steelers. And that's another thing with my fandom. My mom is a diehard Steelers fan. Like my mom's side are big Steelers fans. And I think they campaigned to get me to be a Steelers fan growing up. And I'm like, nah, I like the Bengals. You know, I like the uniforms. Again, my friends are Bengals fans. So my mom lost out on me there. And unfortunately, it might not have been the best choice for my sanity, considering how much more success the Steelers are. But that's kind of how that went. And like I never, me personally, I never had this like insane hatred for the Steelers because I always had a soft spot for my mom, obviously.
Yeah.
But there are some definite players I'm like, yeah, fuck you guys.
I could think of a couple.
Right.
Think of one right now. So I know you've been to a lot of games and, you know, grew up around that area. Did you ever go to training camps or any other practices and stuff like that?
Oh, all the time. Like the Bengals have training camp in Georgetown, Kentucky, which is about an hour south of Cincinnati in Kentucky. And me and my dad and my best friend and his dad, like the guys I mentioned before, we would always stay in Georgetown for like 2 days and see a couple training camp practices. And that's honestly some of my more like first memories of being a Bengals fan, like going down there, getting a ton of autographs from those like early and mid 2000s teams, just, you know, stories of watching players practice, watching players who never really panned out, but just remember seeing them, like just players that not like everyone would know because they didn't make the team or whatever. But I have incredibly fond memories when they practiced down in Georgetown. Then they moved up to Cincinnati for training camp, I believe in like the early 2010s. And I would still go down there. Now I go down there more on a professional basis because I cover the team. And so it's a lot easier for me because it's only like a 5-minute drive compared to an hour drive.
Yeah. Have you been to any away games?
I don't think I have, honestly.
Wow.
I've only been like, I'm a big UC fan, the Bearcats fan, and I've been to a couple away games with them, but I don't feel like we've ever traveled for a Bengals game. There's obviously been opportunities with the Steelers and like the Colts who played near them, but I don't think I've ever been to an away game for the Bengals.
Well, if we know you've been to the Bengals stadium dozens of times. If we were to go there, you have any advice for us? Food, parking, where to sit, anything like that? So
the parking situation has gotten honestly worse because they're developing a lot of stuff. So like we would always tailgate in the stadium in the parking lot next to the stadium, and they just built a bunch of buildings kind of around in the surrounding parking lots. So now it's more along the lines of you park, you go to bars, and the bar scene has greatly improved right next to the stadium. It's a place called the Banks, which is between the Bengals and the Reds stadium. So there's a plenty of tons of bars for people to go. And, you know, from my experience, you know, Bengals fans, they know the struggle. So regardless if your team is good or bad, you're always going to be welcomed there, you know, just in that pregame atmosphere. But if you're looking for food, definitely just, you know, anywhere around the stadium, you can probably get a decent meal. It's not like, I guess, like Jerry World, I guess, in that whole atmosphere or whatever. But, you know, it's good enough for the Bengals fan base. Cincinnati is not this robust, incredible metropolis. It's very smallish. It's like a mid-tier city, I suppose, from a urban perspective. So it's just nice and laid back, and you know you'll get buzzed before the game. That's really all that matters.
I feel like those type of teams and atmospheres, they breed the best fans, though. I bet the Bengals have some great fans out there.
I mean, I would like to think so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what's your game day setup look like? Are you a, you know, live tweeter? Do you just watch the game alone? Do you go down to a bar? I mean, do you have media access nowadays?
I do not have media access, but we basically cover the game from a media perspective. I'll just be right in this chair in my desk, and I'll have the game up, and I'll have my computer up, and we'll cover the game, and we'll do live updates and stuff like that. And that's how it's been for me for the past few years now that I'm, you know, having to have posts up and game recaps and stuff like that. So I haven't watched the game live since 2016, and I haven't really watched the game like out in like public in a while too, just because of responsibilities and such. There might be like 1 or 2 times a year where I get to do that, and sometimes I'll watch at home with my dad or something, and I'll still be able to cover the game on my computer or whatnot. But mainly it's just me in my apartment with like like a stream on or something like that.
Perfect. Going to the practices and the training camps and stuff and having season tickets, did you get a chance to kind of grow your memorabilia collection? Do you have any signed helmets, balls, and things like that?
Oh yeah, like I had this signed like mini helmet. I remember me and my friends, we went to, God, was it Kmart or something? It was some old, like not even in business store anymore, and they sold these like black and gold Bengals footballs with these special Sharpies, and we got them bright and early in the morning before training camp, and then took them down to training camp, and it felt really cool to like have something very unique for the players to sign, have like a unique Sharpie. And I was like 10 or 11, and I still like cared a lot about that. I haven't really gotten anything like that since I guess probably like 6 or 7 years ago. I have plenty of stuff from my childhood. I don't feel like I need to go out and get any more of that.
What's the holy grail item? What's the one thing?
I think it was cool to have just a normal mini football signed by Andy Dalton and AJ Green. I got that like 2012 in a training camp practice. Like I got them both, and I felt really accomplished. Like, oh my God, these are the two faces of the franchise when they're still really young and promising. So I still have that in my childhood bedroom, kind of posted up a little bit.
Nice. So you mentioned earlier that you used to go to training camps and get signatures from players that didn't really pan out. Was there any player that stood out to you?
I tell this story a lot. Like I didn't get his autograph, but I was, God, like 13 maybe at the time, and the Bengals had this player named Maurice Purify. If you don't know who that is, I don't blame you at all. Wait, so you do know who he is?
I don't know who he is.
He's from. Was that the guy from San Diego State?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was with the team in training camp, and he had these 2 insane, just down the field catches on the sideline. And I was still a kid, so like my friend's dad's like, "Hey, John, who impressed you in training camp?" I'm like, "This Maurice Purify guy. He's going to make the team. He's going to be a superstar." And they all laughed at me, rightfully so, because he didn't make the team at all, because he's not that good. A couple years later, though, he goes on to play arena football for like the Arizona Rattlers. And I swear to you, he had a stat line of like 100-something touchdowns in the season and won the league MVP. And to this day, I'll be like, you know what? I may not have an eye for NFL talent, but I'm an arena football league scout. I think so.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember he. I want to say he broke the single season rushing record at San Diego State that was held by Marshall Faulk. And then after Faulk, though, I mean, no running backs really made it. I mean. At San Diego State, actually, and I know you say, scout the player, not the helmet, but I mean, no running back from San Diego State's really panned out since then.
Are you a San Diego State guy?
Am I San Diego? No, I'm not. I'm a Texas guy.
Okay.
Yeah, we're big Longhorn fans over here. I'm a big fan of them. Big fan of a Big Ten as well. But that's usually on my like wrestling side, because there's a lot of my wrestling fandom over there, and I pay attention to the Big Ten network. But yeah, man, me and Duran, that's the one team we can agree on is the Texas Longhorns.
Last question for me in this section is, do you remember your first jersey? I mean, you had to have been a baby.
First jersey was John Kitna. I got that. I think first grade. It was 2003, so it was right. Or 2002, so it was right before they had the uniforms. So it was right before they drafted Carson Palmer. So my mom probably bought it at the worst time because it was right before it became discounted or something. But I was just I was a 6 or 7 year old first grader, and that was the first time I was like a Bengals fan. So I felt like I had to have something.
Yeah,
actually surprised that your mom bought you that, not like a
I mean,
yeah,
I'm still her son. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There you go. That'd have been funny. I mean, me and Duran, we're cousins. So growing up my whole life, I had to be with a rival. I wasn't around in like the early 80s. I'm an 88 baby. He's 89. So we weren't like really rivals, but growing up in that split household, it's gotta be kind of irritating at sometimes, but at the end of the day, like I was saying earlier, like it's all love. It's all football.
Well, you at least have like the duality of like championship pedigree. Like I'm dealing with 6 rings and I have none. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of an uneven battle in that sense.
There you go.
Gee, anything else for how it started?
No, nothing for how it started. But this next section, we like to guess your favorite player. Just for bragging rights, right? So we got it. Duran, I think we should start like putting something on the line here for the next.
Go back and total it up.
Yeah, we gotta tally it up for sure. But we like to guess. So Duran, if you want to go ahead and guess first, I'll allow it.
I mean, I was looking back. The Bengals only have one Pro Bowler. I don't think any of us watched him play. Munoz, the lineman, but I think there's only one answer here, and it's Chad Johnson. I think he kind of put the Bengals on the map for my generation.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say Chad Johnson as well, but since you took him, I'm gonna go ahead and go with Corey Dillon.
My favorite player growing up was Carson Palmer, actually.
Wow, okay.
I mean, I like Chad. He would have been like 1B, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I just think, like, for Carson to me is what I hope Joe Burrow is for younger Bengals fans, just to have that just known commodity guy who's going to lead the franchise. Like, obviously, Palmer didn't last as long as most Bengals fans wanted, but just to have that, Heisman Trophy, franchise caliber quarterback at that time when I was just growing up, it did wonders on me, and obviously killed me when he left like he did. But like obviously Chad was Chad and he came before Carson, but like right when I became a fan is when they drafted Carson. I think that was the thing for me.
So you remember when they drafted him number 1 overall? Did you feel like, this was kind of the tide turning and the Bengals were on the up and up?
Right. It was, I mean, it's just
similar to now.
Right. They only get in these spots because they're lucky, and they just happen to be the worst team right when they needed a quarterback. And that's what happened with Burrow a couple years ago. And that sometimes once in every 20 years, they just find themselves in situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I really like too is, everyone always said that, Johnson, Chad Johnson, Ochocinco, he's a head case. Like he's very, very hard to deal with, but like that camaraderie that he had with Palmer was always so great. And like you get like a super hyperactive guy like Chad Johnson and super mellow cat, just like Palmer, just saying, yeah, dude, just get open. I'll throw it up. I know where you want it. And it seems like he always hit him. He always found him. I always loved how they did it. And even he was coaching up his younger brother, who's actually a quarterback guru now for the draft.
Right.
He'd always, after the preseason, you'd always see him pull him aside right away and not play big brother, but play coach. And that's something that I've always really liked of him and, always been a fan of. Like I didn't like it when he came to the Arizona Cardinals because we had to play against him twice a year and he was tearing it up. And that was Bruce Arians' prototypical quarterback. But yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah. What happened when he was, on his way out? Didn't he do like a pump fake retirement thing? Maybe like Gronk did. Wasn't it something like that?
So this is like the integral example of my maturity. Cause at the time, I was still I was a little punk myself, and I saw like Carson, like, oh, he quit on us. He's getting out of here. He just wants the best for himself. I hate this motherfucker. And now looking back, like Carson Palmer was the definition of a martyr. And not a lot of people still realize that. They just look at him as like a selfish bastard. But Palmer just wanted the Bengals to take what they had seriously. And they, they're known as a cheap and frugal franchise. And that's what they were with Palmer. Like they just relied on the draft. They just relied on getting lucky. And Palmer's like, fuck this. I'm a god. Like I deserve a better team around me. And I'm going to utilize my leverage long before some of these other quarterbacks are doing the same. And that's what he did. Like either trade me or I'm retiring. And the Bengals tried to call his bluff for as long as they did. They somehow managed to get a first rounder out of him because Hugh Jackson pulled him a favor with the Raiders. But like at the time, like I hated him for it. But looking back, like he did exactly probably what he should have done, because if he stayed with the Bengals, I don't know if he ever gets that playoff win. I mean, I'm glad he at least got one. I rooted for him in Arizona. I was glad to see him kind of go out there on one last type of just one last type of ride. So like when it happened, obviously, I hated him for it, but I completely understand why I did it now.
Yeah, I didn't realize he only had one playoff win. if Carson Palmer was Batman, who would you say his Robin is?
And in terms of like my preference as a fan, or like how he
Like his go-to guy, the next best player on the offense.
DJ Houshmandzadeh.
I think it's got to be Chad for
Yeah.
the reasons that Gennaro mentioned. Like just like that combo. I mean, there's something about like in their history, even before Palmer, they had like Isaac Curtis, Ken Anderson, Boomer Esiason, I guess Carson Palmer to that extent, even Jeff Blake and Darnay Scott. They've always had these integral quarterback receiver combos, and I think they're going to try to do that again with Burrow and Jamar Chase, but even again Andy Dalton, AJ Green. So that was, if it wasn't the best quarterback receiver duo, it's definitely one of the 2 or 3 best in franchise history, and that's ultimately why they were competitive for most of those years, and that's why a lot of Bengals fans became Bengals fans.
Yeah, 44 touchdowns to Chad, 35 to TJ, and the next was Chris Henry at 19. So I think Chad Johnson definitely the right answer there.
Great Chris Henry, man. Yeah, but I always loved it too, because like whenever Chad Johnson looked across from a DB, all he had to do was yee. And I feel like Palmer knew what was up. He just looked over and just gave him a nod, looked off somebody, and went to Chad. Like you knew that Chad Adam. I mean, that guy was awesome at route running. I seen him run routes like today, and I feel like he still has something in the tank. And I love to watch him on I Am Athlete for sure, arguing with Brandon Martin on there. It's so fun to see, and like he's straight up just doing all this, eating McDonald's and everything, and everyone was worried about him like getting crazy, going out to clubs, but he's literally drinking cranberry juice and like soda water.
He's never had a drop of alcohol in his life, he claims.
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
His only vice is that he smokes cigars, and I 100% believe that for someone who ate McDonald's as much as he did, and in the physique that he's in, and as quick as he was, like I would believe him with that.
Yep. Do you have a favorite celebration?
I was a big fan of like the salsa or the river dances. I don't know. I tried to emulate that as a kid. Yep. I like the putting of the football. Obviously, the marriage proposal was one he looks back on. Like again, just thinking about all this, it's like it's fun for Bengals fans, and it was fun just for anyone who just happened to catch the Bengals. Like no one really watched the Bengals before what they became relevant again. Like, oh, this is kind of fun. This is something I would like to watch it from time to time, and I think every Bengals fan definitely owes a sense of gratitude towards him for doing that. And him still being an ambassador to the team for as much as he is. It's like that's everything that you want in, I guess, a franchise player.
Yeah, I was trying to look up some of his highlights and touchdowns and things like that before this interview, and it's kind of hard because all his celebrations are just at the top. That's what everyone wants to see. But he was in the end zone a lot, so I don't blame him. How did you feel? He moved on. He went to New England. He almost got his Super Bowl there. I mean, he played a really small role on that team. But we saw a different side of Chad. How did you feel when he left?
Yeah, it was very much like Corey Dillon, I guess, where Dillon had a lot more success with the Patriots, but he won a Super Bowl with them. It was weird because like Bill Belichick obviously had a ton of respect for Chad. I believe there's like a quote out there saying like we're gonna have to triple team you today when he was still with the Bengals. But like Bill, like he knows who's talented and who's not, and I think he figured that Chad was worth a flyer on, and for whatever reason, it just didn't click. I don't think Chad would say like I didn't fit the Patriot way. It's just some players succeed and some players don't under that system with fucking Wes Welker and Julian Edelman having 10,000 yards each to their name, and for some reason Chad couldn't get it going. But it was weird seeing him there and like trying like just not fitting, not emulating. But he was also at the end of his career, so it didn't, I guess, totally shock me.
Yep.
Yeah. One of my favorite Chad Johnson. Oh, I actually have a couple. I loved it in preseason. They let him kick. I thought that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
The battle of celebrations between him and Steve Smith.
Oh yeah.
Always so funny. Like they took out separate bank accounts. Like I know we're gonna get fined for this, so we're gonna put all the money in this bank account. Then we're gonna pay it off with this bank account. That's actually something I really love. they're having fun. It made when at the time I was a little bit younger, I was still playing like high school ball. It's like these professionals are having fun, like scoring touchdowns, having fun with their buddies, and that's what I was doing. So I was like, I can still do this for sure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
If is there any underrated players you kind of want to shine some light on?
Ooh.
That played for the Bengals? Most people might not remember them or even know who they are.
I mean, there's some obvious answers. Like, I really wonder when Andrew Whitworth retires if he's going to be remembered more as a Ram rather than a Bengal, because obviously he's more well known now because he's in the playoffs and he went to a goddamn Super Bowl. And he's still playing really well at like age 38. But he was so fucking good with the Bengals, and he just never really got his credit when he was with there for obvious reasons. I think like other players that come to mind, Leon Hall. Like when Darrelle Revis was at the top of the mountain, he rightfully was. Hall was emerging as like the league's top slot cornerback right before people started to take value in that position when teams started to go more 3-wide receiver sets, and he was just locking down in that unique position when after Jonathan Joseph left. I think those two just really stand out to me. When the Bengals were relevant, they never really got the credit that they deserve, and I'm just glad to see more people recognize Whitworth for who he is.
Yeah.
What about you? I think. Do you have any like memorable Bengals fans that you feel like you didn't get enough love?
Fans
or players? I'm sorry.
Oh, I think he said Whitworth, Leon Hall. As far as Whitworth goes, I mean, I think I will remember him more as a Ram. He did make it to a Super Bowl with them. They didn't win, of course. And, this day and age with the Hard Knocks stuff and things like that, he got a lot of camera time on that show. And he was kind of like the OG, they showed how he was kind of the leader of the offense, or at least the offensive line. And yeah, he might go down as a Ram to me, but he was 11 years for the Bengals. So that might be up to him there. Anything else for players?
As far as players goes, I mean, I had a couple players that I thought were super that I really liked. I thought were a little bit underrated. I was a big fan of Rudy Johnson coming out. Even the Lawfern was there for a little bit. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
Yep.
Then like I was saying earlier, I'm a UT fan, so I always follow Cedric Benson, and I know that he had a good couple years with you guys as well. I know they're all running backs, but that's actually one position that I really, have fun watching. Like even prospects today, like Javonte Williams and Najee Harris. I love watching.
Just on that note, I know he didn't last long in the NFL, but just because he's a UT guy, we had such high expectations for Jordan Shipley. Like he was going to be really good.
So did I.
Yeah, he was going to be really good. I'm glad we got to saw at least a year of him.
Yeah, he was the Edelman Welker of that Texas team for sure.
I was so excited because like in that year, Colt McCoy went, then right after went Shipley in that draft. And then at UT, you had Case McCoy, and I think his name was Jackson Shipley. Was his younger brother? I was like, oh man, they got those two brothers going up, and they both shit the bed. So
yep, that's it for me. G, ready to move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Go ahead, have at it, man.
All right, next we want to know if you have a favorite coach in Bengals history.
Ooh, favorite coach. I'm not I think Mike Zimmer is probably the easy answer here, just because he lasted. I mean, obviously Cowboys fans are a little bit familiar with him as well.
Yeah.
When he came, like the Bengals defense was just a joke. Like I don't remember the defensive coordinator that came before him, but he just established himself as just this no nonsense guy that just got the most out of his players. And like the Bengals offense was decent when he was there, but like their defense was consistently, if not a top 10 unit, at least an above average one, something that you can rely on. But like even to this day, Bengals fans they ride and die by Zim. And there was like some rumors about, the Vikings may let him go. And then like, oh, the Bengals got to get back Zimmer. He's still beloved within that front office. And I know that for a fact. He still has like a property in Northern Kentucky that he always goes back to in the offseason. So if he ever gets the chance to go back to the Bengals, I think he would definitely take it. But like there were fans that wanted to fire Marvin Lewis to make sure that they don't lose Mike Zimmer, but because he was that beloved at not only as a coach but as a person. I believe his wife died in the middle of the 2009 season. They had this very emotional win against the Baltimore Ravens. They gave the game ball to Zim, and that's when I think fans really started to get to know him just as this really nice person. He's kind of a hard ass as a coach, but just personally, he's a great dude. He's a great connector with players, and consistently got the most out of guys and developed great cornerbacks and edge rushers for the Bengals.
Yeah, that he was a defensive guy, of course. I love the way he runs his defense in Minnesota. But looking at it right now, he had top 10 defenses 5 out of the 6 years he was there. I mean, I feel like that was a big part of what got you guys to those consecutive playoff streak right there. And I mean, pretty good players at all levels too. Burfict, Atkins, Dunlap, Pac-Man, Reggie Nelson, Pecco. I mean, he put together a killer squad there.
Yeah, they miss him to this day. Like, they have yet to find some consistency on defense. And they hired Paul Gunther because he was like a Zimmer disciple, and they never got a lot out of him. And they've been going through defense coordinators now left and right. They're trying to hold on to Lou Anarumo, who I think most Bengals fans say is not very qualified for that position. So it's like the offensive line struggles. They've been a thing for a few years. Their defense struggles have lasted longer ever since Zimmer has left. And I think that has resonated with the fan base a lot.
Yeah, I hate to say, I think Dallas misses him ever since he left as well.
Yeah, that coaching staff that when he was on there was pretty nasty.
Yep, Sean Payton too.
Sean Payton, then you had Lynn. You guys had another guy too. I'm blanking.
Yeah, but, hopefully one of them will come back one of these days.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, Gunther, man. I remember when you guys, I had high expectations for him because he was a Zimmer disciple, and Zimmer's defense was always known to be nasty. Didn't really pan out. Then he goes to Oakland, then Vegas, same team but different town, city, state, whatever. Didn't really pan out there. I know he was just recently let go. I don't know whose replacement is there, but yeah, man, I was kind of let down by Gunther.
Right.
How do you feel about Zach Taylor? I mean, he's only 2 seasons in. I know he's off to a rough start so far, but it seems like things are starting to trend up ever since you got the quarterback. I mean,
how do you feel about the hire?
He got the job when he was really young, 35 years old. He seems like a quiet guy. I mean, how do you feel about him?
He got it because he got a cup of coffee with McVay, I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, he was like the quarterback coach for the Rams.
For 1 year, and like assistant receivers coach the year before that. And the year before that, he was the fucking coordinator for the UC Bearcats. Yeah. So like in terms, like at least McVay had a couple years as a play caller under his belt before he got hired. And then like Taylor was like the quintessential, if you know Sean McVay, you're obviously qualified for this. And to this day, I think Zach Taylor has a decent offensive mind. And we, like you said, he's a quiet guy. I don't even know if it's accurate because we don't know a lot about him personally. I got the chance to talk to him once, like right before his first season. And I think he says the right things and he has the right mindset, but at a certain point, the results have to show for it. And he only has 6 wins in 2 years. And a lot of Bengals fans say, oh, that's a lot of injuries, a lot of bad luck, a lot of close losses. But at a certain point, you kind of are what you are. I think if Zach Taylor was an offensive coordinator, he would be looked at in a much better light. It doesn't help the fact that I don't think he hired the best supporting staff in this first 2 years. The offensive line coach is the biggest flop because Jim Turner, their offensive line coach last couple of years, he is actually a family friend of Zach Taylor, and he is the worst offensive line coach in the history of the NFL. And that really set the team back, I think, for the past couple of years. And they interviewed a shit ton of defensive coordinators and finally settled on Lou Anarumo like the middle of February. That doesn't happen in the NFL hiring cycle. You don't wait until the combine to finalize your staff, but like no one really felt confident in running a defense under this rookie head coach that no one knows anything about. So like, I think he needed a lot more support and a lot more leadership and experience on his staff to help him out and grow into it. But the Bengals are certainly confident in him eventually growing into this role because not a lot of teams would give him this third year nowadays.
Yeah, I guess that is the downfall of hiring a guy that's 35 with not much, NFL experience. I mean, the coordinator jobs, the assistant coaches and stuff, a lot of those hires are done through building relationships over time, just experience going around the league and learning and, becoming friends with other coaches. So like you said, he might like being a coach, if he had the opportunity to hire you, you'd probably be like, I think I could find a better opportunity somewhere else, unfortunately.
Would you consider him on the hot seat this year?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they don't still are infatuated with him, but at a certain point, the results have to come. And I think there were some reported conflicts with him and some veterans like Carlos Dunlap that obviously got out this season, and there were some other disgruntled guys who were drafted by Marvin that just didn't really click. And that was my thinking that this guy's losing the locker room a little bit, and he's not getting support from the older guys, but this offseason specifically, you're seeing a lot more outspoken support for Zach as a player, as coach, and as someone who, knows that he's still growing into this role. And he's not a narcissist in that sense. He still takes advice from some of these players, and he still wants the best for them. And I think that's obviously a good thing, but he's got to produce this year. If they start slow out of the gate, it will be interesting to see if he makes it out of week 8. They need to be competitive this year, and they need to be close to the playoffs if he hopes to get to 2022.
It's going to be tough, man.
I've seen some coaches being let go after the draft. Do you think he has to hit the draft out of the park for this as well?
Oh, he's not going to get fired after the draft. Yeah, the earliest he would get fired, it would be the absolute earliest would be the middle of the season. And that's if they're absolutely terrible, which is possible, of course.
Yeah. Do you have a least favorite coach in Bengals history?
Oh, this is unfair because with the Bengals, he wasn't too bad, but my opinion on Hugh Jackson has soured immensely ever since he left. And Bengals fans were absolutely terrified that he was going to get the job after Marvin Lewis got fired, because that was originally the plan. The plan was for Hugh to be the successor to Lewis after the 2016 or 17 season. And then Hugh took the job in Cleveland, absolutely bungled the shit out of that. Then basically came back to the Bengals as their Dwight Schrute, as the assistant to the assistant type of role. Yeah. I to this day, I still don't know what he did in the latter part of the 2018 season, but I just don't vibe with him at all. And he was a good offensive coordinator, and he was a longtime assistant for the Bengals. He did some good things there, but now I lost a ton of respect for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know if
especially with his book coming out too.
Yeah, his book. I think he's done coaching with all the shit that he's spewing in that book.
Exactly. Yeah, well said. Spewing for sure. It's he's shitting from the mouth because he's oh man, I'm about to, pretty much just drop a hell of bombs. It's dude.
And it says a lot when he was the head coach for the Browns. They weren't even filling him in on who the first overall pick was going to be until the day before the draft. And then of course the public all found out about it once he knew about it. I think his time is done in the NFL. Anything else, G, for coaches?
No,
move on a little bit.
I was kind of expecting it to be Hugh Jackson for sure. I'm glad that it isn't Marvin Lewis, but
I love Marvin. I love Marvin to this day.
Marvin's the only coach over 500 since 1983. So I didn't think he'd get the worst coach.
Yeah, he's still coaching to this day. He's at Arizona State with Herm, but he had some head coaching positions. I wasn't too sure if he got the interviews because of the Rooney Rule, but it's good to see him still sticking with the defense, because I know what was he with the Ravens before the Bengals, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He won the Super Bowl with that 2000 team, which was just god tier for what that defense was.
He interviewed with Dallas when they were hiring their head coach too.
Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just another thing I didn't know. So I was a big fan of him. He seemed like a really good players coach. I remember him on the Hard Knocks. He always had a good I know that you guys had a dispute with, I think it was a rookie, Andre Smith, trying to get him to camp. But it was really cool to see the head coach sitting in on it, and then the GM coming in after, oh yeah, let's get something settled. It's wow, it seems like the head coach is taking over for it. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yep.
Like with Marvin, just real quick, like there's a difference between I think like not respecting him and also recognizing when the time is to go. Like it was the last 3 years. It was really since that final playoff loss. Like this has to just be wrapped up. Like he's done well and he's done a lot to get to the Bengals to where they were, but at a certain point you got to just try for progress, and that's what I think gave us a lot of relief when they finally went in another direction. But to this day, Marvin Lewis is a quality head coach, and he definitely deserves another shot.
Yeah, I think he even felt that way. They initially said, it was a mutual decision.
Right.
Part ways.
So we talked about the coach. We want to know about your very first memory as a Bengals fan.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one.
I truly don't know.
Yeah,
okay. Well, how about your favorite one? Your favorite Bengals memory?
Favorite Bengals memory. Some people say right before the end of the playoff game where they lost, where they felt like that one quintessential high, like this is actually going to happen for the first time in 26 years. But mine is not like is not very extravagant at all. I think it was a win over the the San Diego Chargers, like 2006 or 7ish. It was some night game, and the Bengals destroyed the Chargers. And I just remember being with my dad, and I don't know, it was just a quality win, and the Bengals were really good at the time. And I just remember just being there and laughing and cheering with him. And we developed these relationships with people in the stands next to us and in the seats. And I don't know, like, I don't know why that stands out to me. Like, I feel like there's definitely other games where they dominated and I had similar feelings, but I think with that, it was just, it really sums up my experience of going to the games and just having a good time with my dad. And just kind of bonding like that, and just being there in the crowd. This is really soppy, and like I don't mean to get emotional, but
yeah, like no, man, that's like the most heartfelt one that we've had, and that's awesome, man. Because I know Duran, he's a Cowboys fan because of his mom. You're a Bengals fan because of your dad. I'm a Niners fan because of my older brother and my mom. So I think that's awesome, dude. That's a heartfelt story, bro. Like, have at it, man.
It's like I wouldn't even say
I love it.
I wouldn't even say it's because of my dad. Like, because my dad grew up a Browns fan. He only became a Bengals fan because the Browns moved. Shit. He only became a Bengals fan because the Browns moved in like the 90s. So like at this point in his life, like he just took me to Bengals games because I love the Bengals. But that was enough for me, because we got to tailgate with my friends. We got to be there with my friends, and we sat in different spots. So I watched the game with my dad, but like I don't know, I just still remember that one game because it was everything that I loved going to games and watching them about.
Yeah, man, I like awesome, that answer.
I definitely do as well, man, because it sounds like it's not necessarily about that game particularly. It's about the moment and the camaraderie you have with like everyone around you, because you can go to a game, you cannot know. I went to a game with Duran actually at Levi Stadium. The Niners were playing the Cowboys. He developed camaraderie with like the guys like 2 rows behind us that were Cowboys fan. I developed camaraderie with guys that were in front of me that were Niners fans. I've never met them, and like we were just like high fiving, hugging, like oh yeah. So
that's the way it goes.
That camaraderie, and when you're in the moment, it's amazing to feel. Like it's the reason why we developed this podcast, because we're all fans. Like win or lose, we're all fans. So I love that answer, man. That was the most heartfelt, passionate answers we have, and that's
thanks, man.
Great, dude. That's awesome, man. I felt that in my heart, and I love it, man. That's
I felt it in your heart.
Cheers,
yeah,
dude.
I was looking through the Bengals history and stuff, and not gonna lie, it was a little hard for me to find, a big moment, especially, no real big playoff wins, Super Bowls, and things like that. But I did find a couple that stood out to me. I mean, I think we already covered the Carson Palmer pick. I think after that, it would go just in like chronological order. The Jerome Simpson front flip,
Oh,
2011 versus the Cardinals. I mean, that was amazing. I don't think we've seen anything like it since.
that was Christmas Eve of 2011,
Yeah.
and obviously we weren't at the game because it was Christmas Eve. But I just
Oh,
remember like
yeah.
I just remember running around my house like after that happened. I was just hyped beyond belief because it was right before halftime, so there's just a lot of downtime before the next play. I'm like, oh my god, what the hell is this?
Yeah, we see guys get helicoptered, we see guys get flipped over and stuff, but
John Elway.
you never see a guy flipped over for a touchdown and lands on his feet. I mean, you could even see like his body control in midair. He like grabs the guy and helps himself flip over. I mean, that was an amazing one.
I think mine is how in the world are you going to stop Ocho Cinco? How in the world are you going to stop T.O.? Like,
oh, the T.O. and Chad Johnson years, 2010.
Yeah, I loved it, man, because like I love Chad Johnson because at the time there wasn't really anything big coming out of Oregon State, really. And, you know, that was him. And then T.O., he always has a special place in my heart, even though in real life he's kind of an asshole, which is fine. But, you know, I still have love for him and how he played on the field, even his year at the Buffalo Bills.
That might be the only similarity between these three teams is Terrell.
Oh, yeah,
T.O. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was done with T.O. by the time he was at the Bengals, honestly.
Yeah, man, we found it. When he was with the Bengals, he actually had a good career.
T.O. was good all the way to the end. It was all the extra stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely was. I mean, him crying about Romo saying that's his quarterback, and then, you know, it was really good to see, man.
He called your quarterback gay.
He did call Jeff Garcia gay.
Yeah,
I think he was he was more pissed off that.
Of course,
man, I was just texting my brother about this earlier. He was talking about because I was like, yeah, we're getting ready to go on with Bengals fan, and he wrote us. He's like, oh man, Peter Ward, Corey Dillon, then the quarterback Blake. And I said, man, he's like, and I had high expectations for Peter Rourke. And I was like, man, I remember, you know, speaking of draft bust, Lawrence Phillips. I was like, I hate that guy so much because if he made that block on Arnez Williams, Steve Young still could have been playing. Not today, but he could have been playing. Things could have turned out differently. And I know that Terrell Owens and Steve Young connected really well.
The last Bengals good memory that I have down here. I mean, it's recent. Everyone remembers this one. Juju getting smacked by Von Bell. I mean, I think Von Bell did a service to not only Bengals fans, but I think a lot of fans around the league were kind of getting tired of his antics. I think a lot of Steelers fans were too, honestly.
That was like, you have to understand, like the last 4 years now that I write about the team, I've kind of distanced myself away from like the passionate side of things. I've just been trying to be more objective and just keep an even keel. That was the first time I felt like shock and like, oh my god, this is fucking insane. Like, because I feel like ever since that playoff loss, it completely desensitized me to anything Bengals. And that moment was the first time like I felt like emotion about it, and I like wanted to like express that because it was the most un-Bengals thing I've ever seen. For them to be on the other side of a moment like that with everybody watching on primetime, a place where they usually just lose, it was every sense of the word surreal. And yeah, I'm glad all of other people feel the same way about it.
Yeah.
While we're on players, I'm just curious, how did you feel about Vontaze?
When he was good, I felt like he was just a player out of his time. If he had played like in the early 2000s, he would have been looked the same as Ray Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like like I never wanted to defend like some of those hits because they were obviously bad. And, you know, there was a whole thing like, oh, he's being suspended to be made like a message out of the league. Like, no, like he's leading with his helmet and you shouldn't do that anymore for obvious reasons. But I never really wanted to defend the player, but I think there was also this unfair perception about him off the field. And there was never anything remotely like that. He was a very nice person and a very personable person. Mm-hmm. And I think people wanted to make him as this bad person that he wasn't. He was just a stupid idiot on the field who never learned how to control where his head goes. And he's rightfully out of the league because there's no place for that.
I actually compared his style of play when he was coming out of Arizona State. I compared him to Brandon Spikes out of Florida. Like they played very similarly. They both didn't test really well in the combine, but when you go to the game tape, when you go to the game style, they played very similarly. And he belonged in the earlier years of the NFL. But if it wasn't for him, I think he made Antonio Brown what he is today, because that hit, like me and Duran talk about all the time, brings it to my attention. If it wasn't for that hit, Antonio Brown probably wouldn't be like how he is today.
I think there's something to that. Like I don't presume to be a doctor. I don't know a lot about CTE, but I mean,
neither are we.
Yeah, there's got to be some evidence with that.
Yeah, or at least it was the straw that broke the camel's. It's just the accumulation of hits over time. I think this kind of leads in perfect to our next little category here. Your worst memory being a Bengals fan. I mean, you guys did have 29 years without a playoff win, 0-7 in the playoffs, including the 5 straight losses in the playoffs. One of those was that Steelers game, the Vontaze Burfict on Antonio Brown.
I mean, there's no other answer for someone in my demographic. I'm sure there's people who are older that remember other games from the past, but I didn't enjoy any minute of that game. Like that was again the last time I was like a true passionate fan for the team, and I was just pacing constantly, thinking that they're gonna screw this up somehow. And then they screwed up in the most royally fashion. Yeah. And just the way that it happened with everything that happened, like there's not a lower low. I think that's even remote. The only lower thing would have been if it was like deeper in the playoffs. But even then they would have had a playoff win under their belt.
Yeah. Yeah. This one was a bad one. I mean, Andy Dalton got hurt in that game. AJ McCarron had to step in. The Bengals, I always say, like, the close games hurt you more than the blowouts. I mean, when you get blown out, you're like, oh, yeah, I mean, it happened.
Check out.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But the Bengals came back from a 15-point deficit, so, they really gave you hope. AJ Green scored that touchdown with less than 2 minutes, and then I think everyone, especially the Bengals fans listening, knows what happens from here on. Eventually, Boswell kicks the game-winning field goal. But just watching that, it was a playoff game. So yeah, I remember as national television, everyone was watching that one, and just the series of events, the penalties, the celebrations, all the guys doing the stuff. I always say the NFL is the best reality show. And that's one of the perfect examples. You couldn't write a better script than what happened there.
So it's better than 90 Day Fiance?
It's close. I love 90 Day, but NFL by far takes it, actually. So yeah. The next couple of things I want to bring up is, I mean, you guys have had some injuries in the past, both to starting quarterbacks. You got Joe Burrow just this past year, and Carson Palmer with the knee. Do one of them hurt more than the other?
I think Palmer hurt a lot because there was tangible belief that team could, if not like win the Super Bowl, like make an appearance. Like AFC wasn't too strong that season. I think the Steelers actually went on to win that year. I think everyone believed that they had a chance to compete with anyone because they were just that good offensively. Like the Burrow one hurt differently because like you guys know, like their offensive line was terrible, and it just seemed like inevitable. And like everyone, I haven't met a person who doesn't like Joe Burrow. Even people who don't follow the Bengals, and just to see that happen in the way that it happened, it's like guys, this is all on you. Like this was avoidable. You ignored the offensive line for a long time, and you put him behind a terrible one with a terrible offensive line coach. And for how drastic it was, it was shocking, but not shocking all at once.
Yeah. I mean, the Carson Palmer one, of course, versus the Steelers. He might have been having his best season so far. He was at almost 4,000 yards passing, 32 touchdowns. And I just went back and watched this play right here, and I didn't realize that Chris Henry got hurt on that play as well. Carson
caught the
Palmer,
pass. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? Was it ACL or something like that?
I think it was a torn ACL,
Yeah.
and like Bengals fans will say that the hit was illegal, and I would still probably say it was. It was the first actual like passing play of the game, and there's just the dude just diving at his knee like that, and you have to think there's probably something going on with that.
The backup
so that
diving at his knee.
Yeah, so like it only adds like insult to injury, the fact that it happened that way, and then where you think, yeah, it's probably was probably planned a little bit.
Yeah, and if the Bengals, were competitive in that game, the Steelers went on to win the Super Bowl that year. So just adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
Gee, can you think of anything else? Draft bust, playoff games, single games.
Man,
I got two more.
I mean, that one brings it up the most to me. Like I was happy that, Joe Burrow is going to play for his hometown team. And then for seeing him go down, I think I was actually at your house watching that. I was just like, oh my God, like this just breaks my heart. But I remember the Carson Palmer one as well. I remember I was really young, but I still put money. Still put money down on the Bengals to win.
Oh my God.
I wanted to see an upset for sure. And I know that I remember the Steelers were favorited by, I think it was like 7.5 at the moment, because they're both.
The Steelers were 7.5 favorites on the road in the playoffs. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I want to say
that's huge.
That. Yeah, I mean, the point spread. Yeah. So
that would have been 9.5 if they were at home, probably.
Probably more than that.
Yeah. The other one I wanted to bring up, of course, Chris Henry, his death, fell out of the back of that truck. I mean, that was that stopped the NFL for a while, just the way it all played out. He wasn't a player on the Bengals at that time, was he?
No, he was.
Oh, he was?
Yeah,
okay.
he was, yeah.
It was late in the season. I was like in class. I was like in 7th grade. I heard about it, and my whole day was ruined, obviously. But that was, I don't know. You're just a young fan and just a player that you really like, and also he's dead.
Yeah,
like this doesn't happen.
Yeah, just the whole situation, unfortunate. I mean, that's usually how tragedies go. The other one I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you remember this, but I just saw it looking at news things in 2016, the off season. The Bengals had a series of arrests. They had 9 players get arrested. Frosty Rucker, AJ Nicholson, Matthias Askew, Chris
2006.
Henry.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah. I thought you said 2016. I got really confused for a second.
2006. Yeah, 2006.
Gotcha. Yeah.
9 guys got arrested. And I kind of feel like, you guys are known for having like one of the smallest like scouting departments and, front offices. And they take chances on guys that, the Pac-Mans, the Vontaze Burficts, the type of guys like that. Do you kind of feel like it caught up with them that year? I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
Like that was only like year 3 or 4 in the Marvin Lewis era, but Marvin was always a guy that believed he could get the best out of people, not just players, but like, and that's how they got some of their like best, like quote unquote discounts, like they only got Pac-Man because he was dealing with his stuff, and he found some sense of mental stability with the Bengals. And obviously things haven't gone well for him since then, but like that was like it wasn't just Marvin, it was Mike Brown too. He had a soft spot for guys who were, I guess, troubled, and I guess he leveraged that to get them on the cheap as well because they didn't want to pay that much. But it was kind of like a win-win. You find a coach in an organization that wants to give you a chance to kind of redeem yourself, and you can prove yourself, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, I always loved Pac-Man. I mean, we know I felt like he was really quiet in Cincinnati, and it just, he, even after he's retired from the NFL, he's still in the news, kind of getting into scuffles, and
he had some incidents in the later part of his Bengal career too. And now ever since like he's been gone, like he's been in a couple more, and it's just like, come on, dude.
Yeah, he's lucky he wasn't in Dallas, because it would have been a front page news everywhere. Yeah. G, anything else for worst memory? Or
you talked about worst coach and Hugh Jackson. I'm just curious. You write and you podcast about the Bengals, are you going to read his book?
No.
No. Okay. That's it. That's all I wanted to know.
He spills his guts anyways.
Yeah.
All the good stuff will come out on Reddit on a little summary or something like that.
Yeah, I do want to read it, but at the same time, like I don't. Maybe I'll just like download it on Audible and just listen to it book-wise. But it's like,
yeah. Oh, Hugh. Let's move on to your future expectations. I mean, this team has a lot on the line this year. The number 5 overall pick, 3 in the top 100. I mean, all we're hearing lately is Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell. Do you kind of have a direction you'd like to go here? I think you mentioned it already.
I think they're gonna take Chase, and I think it's like, I mean, any other year, if there isn't Jamar Chase, the obvious pick would be Penei Sewell for obvious reasons. But I think specifically with the Bengals, like they at least signed a starting tackle for this year, and they haven't done anything to replace AJ Green at receiver. And they obviously value receivers a lot more than tackles. You can just look at their draft history and where they've spent on players just to answer that question. But also just like the cherry on top is the fact that, you know, Chase and Burrow play with each other, and it's an easy evaluation from that sense. But I think not only does it make sense long term because he gives you a trio of receivers under contract for the next few years with Burrow, but also like I feel like they think that Chase gives them a better chance to win now, as long as the offensive line is decent. Like I said, like the coaching staff is 100% on the hot seat. Their seats are scorching hot right now. They need to produce results. And I feel like they think that Chase can give them the easiest path to be competitive, because unfortunately for them, they're in one of the toughest, if not the toughest division in football. And it's tough to compete right now in the AFC North.
Yeah. The tackle you guys added, Riley Reef. I'm assuming that's who you're talking about. But what I really liked is the way they went on defensive heavy for their free agency. Larry Ogunjobi, Trey Hendrickson, Chidobe Awuzie, Mike Hilton, Eli Apple, Ricardo Allen. I mean, the players might not flash to you as, you know, top 3, top 5 player, but I like the positions that they attacked, building that secondary and getting pass rush. I mean, that's all I ask for from my team. Let's keep getting pass rush and let's stop people from throwing the ball over our head. And I kind of like the direction they went there. Do you have a favorite free agent?
I think Reef will make the biggest impact for not a lot of money, but if we want to talk about defense, I do like the value of Awuzie, and obviously you've known him like well, and he unfortunately didn't end his Cowboys career on a high note because he dealt with injuries and COVID last year. But I think he's still a solid player, and they paid him right around where they should have. And like they unfortunately spent a lot of money to not really get that much better on defense, just because they lost some players as well. Yeah, specifically Carl Lawson and William Jackson. But I think they did enough to tread water just to remain competitive on that side of the ball, assuming that everyone stays healthy. But I think Awuzie and Mike Hilton are 2 pretty good value signings that'll just give them a solid secondary, which, you know, hopefully is enough to compete with their offense.
I agree.
I think definitely you guys' needs is like kind of more towards the interior. So I do a lot of mocks because I'm a nerd when it comes to the draft. And I love doing that. And instead of Jamar Chase, I actually went with Pitts, even though I know you guys signed, you know, Burrow's one of favorite targets at LSU and Avery Moss. But yeah, man, I like to see Pitts over there for sure. I think that'd be a mismatch. This receiver class is super heavy. And then you guys can pick something in the later round. Same with the tackle. You guys probably trade back in and get like someone like Very Tucker, maybe, if you guys want to go tackle. But I want to see Pitts and Burrow for sure. I think that'd be pretty fun to see, because T. Higgins is pretty solid for you guys.
T. Higgins is solid, and I feel like Pitts would make sense because even if he's not like a wide receiver, he's still a guy that you would heavily feed. Like, I mean, you watch Kittle 16 times a year, you know, like even if he's not always lining up out wide, like he dictates what defenses do, and he gets his targets, he gets his yards. He's the functioning of an offense, and it's rare for another tight end of potentially that caliber to enter the NFL. And I think you have to at least consider him, and I think the Bengals should consider him. Unfortunately, I think they're just kind of stuck in their ways and like, oh, it's tight end, it's not that valuable in terms of being a top 5 pick, which is which is archaic when you're looking at Kyle Pitts. But even if he's not a traditional receiver, you're still going to give him 100 plus targets. And like you said, like there's no bigger mismatch in this draft. He's definitely right behind Chase as the receiver, not just wide receiver, tight end, just the overall pass catcher that best fits with what Burrow can do.
I think he's the best non-quarterback in the draft for sure. In my opinion,
it's completely fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a stud. He's a mismatch. He did it in the SEC. Let's see. You got both South Carolina cornerbacks trying to cover him. Didn't really work out as well. He found his way with very, I don't know, mediocre quarterback in my opinion with Joey Burrow. I mean, they already not Joey Burrow with Trask. Yeah, Trask is. You already played against him with Mason Rudolph. That's who he is. That's his ceiling. He's nothing in particular. He plays just the same. He has a big arm at sometimes. He's sometimes accurate. His feet are very, very heavy. They're not really impressive to me. I have some quarterbacks that are like, honestly, if like you talked about Cincinnati, if Ritter and let's see, Malik Willis came out, Trask would go down super further in the quarterbacks. But man, when you put Pitts with Burrow, I think that'd be really fun to see, especially with, you have Boyd and you have Higgins, and then you guys add somebody later in the draft. I think that'd be really fun to see. I mean, Terrence Marshall is kind of borderline, like either first round or second round. I mean, you guys can add him in the second, hopefully. I mean, that'd be great.
As far as
Pitts the fucking beast.
Yeah, as far as guys that you lost, Carl Lawson, William Jackson, Mackenzie Alexander, AJ Green, Bobby Hart, Gio Bernard, were there one of those guys that you wish you could have hung on to?
Please don't say Bobby Hart.
Why not?
I mean,
Bobby Hart.
He's garbage.
No, I don't know if he's garbage. What do you think? Do you think he's garbage?
He was garbage.
Okay.
Like not just as a player, but as a person. That's a whole other thing.
Oh shit! I just
the
player was garbage.
Like he was straight up like anti-homophobic on Twitter and like on Instagram.
I didn't know that.
Get this fucker out of here, and they still hold on to him. But Bernard was a surprise, but not a surprise. Like it made all the sense in the world because they paid Mixon, they re-signed Samaje Perine, and there's a lot of money tied up to the running back position, and Bernard's got 1 year left and he's not really going to get a lot of touches, so it made sense to cut him. But the Bengals, that's not a move that they traditionally make. Like Bernard he was one of the guys that always stood up for Zach Taylor, and they love him as a person, what he did in the community. Like he's the guy that the Bengals would always hold on to for the remainder of their deals, just because that's just their MO. They're loyal to a fault, right? And when they cut him to save money, and just because they knew that he wasn't going to be used that much, it made sense, financially, but also at the same time, you're the Bengals. You're not supposed to be getting rid of fan favorites before their deals are up, and it was almost kind of like hurtful a little bit. But it made sense. But it was also I can't believe you actually did this. You're actually operating like a Patriots type of organization where you're just making the best decisions for your football team. Goodwill be damned.
Yeah.
So Billy Price, are you guys gonna pick up his extension or fifth year option, I should say?
Probably not. They won't cut him this year because I think his salary is still guaranteed, but he's
got his replacement.
So they have Trey Hopkins at center. They still have him under contract for the next 2 years. Honestly, I think Price can do decent this year because he's reuniting with his former offensive line coach, and I think he'll have an opportunity to start because Hopkins is still recovering from a torn ACL that he suffered in the final game of the season. So he might get a chance to start the season, and he might put a couple good games together. But he unfortunately has not lived up to his draft status.
What's Geno Atkins? Does he still have a year or two left in the tank?
He's a free agent.
Yeah, I know he's a free. That's why I'm interested.
Yeah,
Dallas loves to get their run stuffers
I'm
late.
just surprised he's a free agent. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. So he was due 14, or his cap hit was $14.5 million, and they're yeah, there's no way we're taking this on next year because he suffered a shoulder injury right before the season. He was never himself. And I think they knew that. Like they knew that it was not the Geno Atkins that they were expecting. And I think that's why there's a possibility that they re-sign him on the cheap. But if he gets an opportunity elsewhere, I don't think they would stop him from doing that. I think as long as he's fully healthy, he can still be like 50% of who he was at his peak for at least one more season.
Come on now. Come on, Dallas. If he's got one more year left in him.
I'm not saying like I mean, obviously you guys can't bring back Gio because he just signed with the Bucks, but is there like a prospect that you want to sign? Do you guys want to sign like a similar player like Duke Johnson? Like
a lot of guys are gone.
I think they're good at running back. Like they might draft one in day 3 of the draft, but I think with Mixon and Pirine, like that's fine. Like their offense isn't really built for having just 3 running backs kind of go in and out. If Mixon goes down, like they might, they might not be able to do a lot of stuff they want to do with the running game. But I think, when with the offense that they're trying to build with Burrow and kind of emulate what LSU did a couple years ago, I think you're fine with what they have. They just got to add like another young guy late in the draft.
Is there like a prospect other than the first round that you have your eye on? Like, oh man, this guy's my sleeper this year, or
I think Bengals fans are really just eyeing any offensive lineman that'll be there in round 2 because they're kind of pigeonholing themselves after they take Chase. So there's like Alex Leatherwood, Samuel Cosme, Landon Dickerson, like Dylan Radins from North Dakota State. Any guy that can potentially start a guard this year and then maybe move out to tackle next year, I think is going to be on the Bengals' radar. And so, like, if he's breathing and he can play offensive line, the Bengals are interested. So like they're probably gonna add a couple, and I would expect the first one to be in that second round.
Got it. Sure. I have one question just because I was digging into Bengals subreddit page. I don't know much about Mike Brown, the owner. I mean, are you a fan? It doesn't seem like most people are. I mean, what's the deal with him?
Mike Brown, if you don't have an opinion on Mike Brown, this is the best way I can describe him. He is a small business owner operating $1 billion organization.
Ooh, like the Raiders.
I mean, and that sounds bad because obviously only like the Lions have lost more in the last 30 years than the Bengals, but that's neither here nor there. Like he's just not his father. Like his father is one of the fathers of pro football. Yeah. And it's tough to live up to that expectation when, you're just not your father. Right. And he's just a business owner, and that's how he operates. Like he doesn't have any other income that he generates outside of football. So his expenses are naturally very minimal. And he was incredibly old fashioned, but nowadays he's still the owner and the president, but he's very much out of the day-to-day operations. That's mainly for his daughter, Katie Blackburn, and her husband. They basically kind of run the show now, but he still has a title and he still has an office and whatnot. But yeah, I never got the sense that he didn't care about his players or care about winning. It was just always that he wanted to win his way because he wanted to like establish himself and not just be the son of Paul Brown. And it just never really worked out because there's just not another Paul Brown,
Would you be against Bezos buying him?
Oh my God. I honestly, like, I think there is, I think I can't even think of something that would be more unlikely than the Bengals selling to Jeff Bezos. Really? Like, I don't think the Bengals ownership would ever sell, period. I think because that's just their life. And I don't think they imagine themselves ever doing anything else. But like,
got the cash to buy him out.
I mean, still though, I really don't see that ever happening.
Okay. Yeah. I only got one more question. G, you got anything else?
No, I mean, I'm just curious, like if you're a UC fan as well, if Desmond Ridder were to come out, what quarterback spot would you think you'd be in?
Oh man, I don't have the greatest opinion of Ridder. Maybe not as high as you. I think he definitely needed to come back. He's got potential though. Like I feel like if he was in this year's class, he would be worth that, like, 4th or 5th round flyer as like a high upside backup that can maybe be something one day.
I think his tape is very similar to Jordan Love.
That's honestly a really good comparison.
and he was a first round too. He was first round
But
talent.
should he have been?
No, he shouldn't have. He shouldn't
Yeah.
have been a first round talent. But like I think Desmond Ritter is worth like a right now. If he were to come out, at the his ceiling would probably be third. His floor would probably be fifth. So that's I was watching him for sure. Just like, man, this guy might come out. Like I want to watch this guy, see how he does. And he's a competitor.
Yeah.
He has good zip on the ball. He just needs to tune up his mechanics. He needs to get with a quarterback guru for sure.
That's fair.
Call Jordan Palmer.
My last question has to do with your quarterback. Do you think he's in the contention for NFL Comeback Player of the Year? Because I think I have a candidate on my team as well, Dak Prescott.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think of anyone else that could be there. I can't think
Nick
of anyone
Bosa.
else. Yeah, usually defensive players don't. I mean, if a quarterback does his thing, he's gonna win it. Yeah, it's bias. I mean, what's Bosa got to do? He's got to get like 20 sacks. He's never had over 10.
Very doable.
20 sacks, very doable.
Right, like if Burrow's like decent, like he'll obviously be in contention. But like for me, like I feel like the Alex Smith thing was kind of a farce, just because of it's almost like the award now is like who can recover from like the worst injury. And obviously with Smith, it's incredible that he's even played in the first place. But like I again, like I don't mean to kissing your guys' ass though, but like see what Trent Williams did after a year off. Like he was straight up robbed. Yeah, and I feel like just because Burrow, just because he had the surgery and Dak is in the similar spot, like you're like, oh my god, this is terrible. If they come back and play decent, like they're obviously going to be the favorites. Sure.
Is Burrow throwing again right now? Like
he is throwing, but he's not like sprinting or like throwing on the run, stuff like that. But he is throwing.
Yeah.
I forget like what week he went down, but I've seen, like, I've been sending videos to Duran about Bosa like running and cutting. I'm super excited to see it. I haven't seen anything about Burrow, but I'm glad to see him throwing again. I was a big fan. I'm still a big fan of him for sure.
Yeah.
I think Burrow should come back a little bit quicker than Bosa, just because Bosa is going to be putting all that pressure and cutting.
Exactly.
And
I agree with you. 100%.
Doing all that stuff. But both of them prime. Yeah, Bosa is going to be in the conversation too. But we know the NFL is very quarterback bias. And like you said, that Dak Prescott injury, brutal to watch. I mean, it was on national TV. And if he has any success next year, I could see him taking it. But we'll see. G, anything else?
No, nothing else for me. But if you can, but John, if you can stay just a little bit after, that'd be great. Nothing else for me. Duran, if you want to go ahead and just tell us where everybody they can find us.
Yeah, find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter at Why We're Fans, also on Spotify, Apple Music, all the top podcast stuff. You could find us. Yeah, that's it. John, where can they find you?
Yep.
Yeah, you can find us Cincy Jungle. You can find the podcast there as well, the Orange and Black Insider, and you can find me on Twitter at John2_Sheeran.
Perfect.
We'll put all your info in the description below on every format that we posted on. That'd be great. But with that being said, cheers to both of you guys.